Now, let's look inside the customer brain. As opposed to the left-right brain dichotomy, left side logical, right side creative, let's really crack this thing open. Again, technology has given us a bigger view, or I should say a closer view of what's inside the client's brain. So here's a new model I want you to take forward. Again, I give it the acronym BRAIN LESS, because there's three parts of the brain, and this is what I want you to consider as you're talking to your customer. There's the logical side of the brain, right? These are people who are almost type A, very logical, very sequential, like to think about things, but also they like you to make things simple, and in this series we're going to show you how to do that. Second, there's an emotional part, right? The emotional impact that we have. Has something ever happened to you and you just remember that event because it was so impactful emotionally that you recall that, you remember that, and it really moved you, right? So that's the emotional side. Last but not least is the most important part, I think, and that's the survival brain. Somewhere back here, the base of the stem, the amygdala, somewhere back there, you have what is known as a reptilian brain. That's your survival brain. From back in the day, caveman hunting type of brain, right? It's your survival brain, and that brain mechanism really overrides everything else in terms of logic or emotion when it's scared, when it's in fear of doing something. This is why sometimes you're talking to a client and logically you can explain everything sequentially why it makes sense that they should buy. And the customer goes, I get it. And then emotionally it's impactful. You show them how you can save them money, increase revenue, whatever it may be, but they get the emotional impact of what you're trying to sell. But sometimes the customer goes, I'm just not ready to make a decision. And that means somewhere down here, you've triggered something. Something down here, they're afraid of something. See, the survival brain is all about safety, your safety. In this case, the customer's safety. The customer's thinking, it's too risky. So the survival brain basically overrides the logic, overrides the emotional impact, and says, let's not make a decision. So our goal is to really talk to the logical side, obviously, try to make an emotional impact with the client, but also reduce the risk. Listen to what I just said. Reduce the risk or risk mitigation. This is what we're talking about. When we can reduce the perceived risk in the client's eyes or the customer's eyes, then guess what? They're more likely to make a decision if we've logically presented our case and they can see the emotional impact or the financial impact. Get the idea? So what we're going to talk about in this series really is how do you talk to all three parts of the brain? And again, let's do a quick summary. The logical side likes things simple. Sequential, simple, I can understand it, I can grab the information quickly. Emotional impact. What does it mean to me? I know you're talking about your product, but what does it mean to me? How does it help me? Because it's all about me. That's what the customer is thinking. And last but not least, what we don't want to trigger is this safety mechanism here, the survival piece, right? Because if the customer feels threatened, what do I mean by that? Maybe they see you as trying to sell them something they don't need. And guess what? They'll pull back. Their safety mechanism kicks in. They don't want to buy. How do we disengage that? How do we reduce the perceived risk of what we're selling so the customer goes, I get it, let me move forward? That's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you different types of strategy, tactics that you're going to be able to use to move the client forward so they're not holding back and not making a decision. Let's go to the next video and really get into it. Here we go.